Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations, and I'm Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Rain Whalen. So, Jeremy, where have we been for the last 2 weeks?
Well, the first week I went camping. It was fun, from what I remember. It was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that one was pretty dope because we had a lot of shade, so that was cool.
Nice.
Wasn't as hot, so that was cool. And then this weekend we were in Austin. So
with me.
That's right.
Yeah, everyone. So we were gone for 2 weeks. We were gonna record on Sunday, but I forgot y'all were camping that weekend. So I was like, well, we're just gonna have to wait. But yeah, so Ashley and I went to Austin for a week, and then you guys came down on Saturday and hung out. We essentially kind of did do the same thing. So we got new tattoos.
Yep.
Are you gonna show everyone your scorpion?
Yeah, I'll show the old scorpion.
Yeah, okay. And then we went to Waterloo and had a blast.
That was fun.
I almost walked away with that fucking Stop Making Sense 4K.
Yep.
God, I wanted it so bad.
It's gonna kill you.
I know, dude. And then we met up with Kale.
Yep.
And we went and saw fucking Long Legs, dude.
So good.
So it will, okay, for sure it'll have to be a future episode, obviously once it comes out physically.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to let everyone know right now, I did enjoy it. I just didn't enjoy it as much as Jeremy enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really, really liked it. I don't know if I loved it yet. I mean, I can't stop thinking about it, so I think maybe I did, because there were just moments in that movie that I just loved. The opening, especially, that's the way you open a movie, you know?
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage's performance was incredible. Micah Monroe was amazing. She said, to tie it into our episode today, in my t-shirt, she said that she took a lot of inspiration from Rooney Mara's performance in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which I thought was really interesting.
That is interesting, considering that character is polar opposite of the character of Lee Harker, you know?
See, that's what I thought. And so, for me, it was, I don't know, I wouldn't know what to compare it to besides, like, I don't know, because she played it so subdued and so and so quiet, so I guess I get it, because Lisbeth in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is also very quiet, and calculated and meticulous and methodical, sort of like our character for today. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. And of course, Nicolas Cage, he's just a rock star. That guy.
Yeah, look, like I said, I didn't love it as much as you. And as we discussed, you, me, and Kale discussing, I may need to go see it again. But the things I loved, obviously, of course, Nicolas Cage. I honestly felt like he was channeling Tiny Tim a little bit the whole movie.
Maybe it might have been the hair and the hair and the voice for sure. Was Tiny Tim-esque, I suppose.
I will say, this isn't a spoiler, I do find it interesting that his makeup, how do you pronounce her name?
Micah Monroe.
Micah, okay. It scared her so much, and I don't know, I didn't find it that scary. Unsettling, definitely, but
yeah, I think it was more uncanny than anything, because like there were feminine features within the makeup and the prosthetics, the cleft chin, they gave him different lips than he usually has, or at least not that I've noticed. The pale skin, right? The light hair, and the cheekbones. The cheekbones are different. So
yeah.
It was, yeah, it was unsettling. It was it was not scary necessarily. So if people are going into this thing thinking it's a horror film, I would subvert those expectations a little. I would say that it's more of a psychological supernatural thriller.
Yeah,
And
I
it's a detective
definitely
story.
definitely in the vein of like Silence of the Lambs,
Yeah, it's
I
like
feel.
it's Silence of the Lambs with supernatural elements. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it was great. I thought that Osgood Perkins, the writer director, who now that I've seen some interviews, I've seen some reviews, I've seen some whatever. He's a little pretentious, especially when it comes to horror films. He does not speak highly of horror films. He he kind of looks down on modern horror, which is so bizarre because he just made one, right? I just said it
Yeah.
wasn't a horror film, but it is in this case because there are horror elements, right?
Yeah.
He's so the fact that he's not putting respect on what he's doing is crazy. Like he almost thinks that he's better than that and he's above it, and I disagree with that wholeheartedly.
So what you're saying is how you feel about his interviews is how I feel about how Ari Aster classifies his films.
Yes, yes. And Osgood, like he's a nepo baby, So it's like his dad is Anthony Perkins, which Anthony Perkins was had him really late in life. Because yeah, Osgood I don't think is that old. But
Yeah.
Anthony Perkins, of course, played Norman Bates in Psycho, and in a few of the sequels. And he was also in The Trial, an Orson Welles film, which is amazing. Everyone needs to go see The Trial.
That's on
Um,
my Criterion
Dude,
wish
it's so
list.
good. It's so different than what you think it is, and it's really cool and surreal and dreamlike and so different. It's so cool. But yeah, Long Legs. I think it's a must see. I think you should go see it if you're into that sort of thing. The cinematography, the camera placement, the direction, the acting, it's
Yeah.
all great.
Yeah, one final thing I'll say, and then we'll move on for today's episode. Yeah, I love everything you just said. I loved, and the tone of pretty much filling the audience with this sense of dread the
Yeah.
whole movie.
Yeah.
Loved it. But
It was incredible. Yeah.
so Jeremy, you said mentioning the girl with dragon tattoo is going to tie into your shirt.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about today?
Well, today we are discussing David Fincher's adaptation of The Killer, starring Michael Fassbender. I love this movie. All right.
Okay.
When it was announced, I was super stoked. Of course, anything David Fincher I'm going to see, right?
Right.
Pretty much anything Michael Fassbender I'm going to see. There's a couple of his films I haven't. One of them being Assassin's Creed, which I have no desire to watch that.
Look, it's fine. You watch it solely for Michael Fassbender.
Sure.
That's it.
I'm sure he's amazing in it, right? And yeah, he's great. And then I saw the trailer for it, and of course, I couldn't wait. Right, I know it's a Netflix film, so I know it's going to be on Netflix eventually. So I'm just waiting on that. And it was in October. Haley had gone out of town, and I was just home alone, and so I was looking to see if any movies were playing. And Alamo Drafthouse was having screenings of The Killer, right? And this is a month, well, 2 weeks before it comes out on Netflix. And I go, I have to go, right? And I went and it blew me away. I thought it was so good, and it subverts expectations to what you think a contract killer movie is going to be.
Yeah.
But it's still, I mean, it's pure David Fincher. The Trent Reznor score is, of course, amazing. And it might make you a fan of the Smiths. So, So yeah, you saw it for the first time for the show.
Yes. This was a first watch for me, which is insane because, again, pretty much everything you just said. I'm also a fan of David Fincher, and the show has made me more of a fan, of course. Fan of Michael Fassbender. And I actually don't remember seeing the trailer. I think it might have been on one of those, like, when Netflix releases, like, oh, here's what's coming. um, I think it was in that, like a little clip of the trailer. And I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And I didn't know it was Fincher. And then I think I saw the official poster for it. And then I saw directed by David Fincher, and I was like, oh, well, I have to see this movie now.
Have to.
But unfortunately I never did. And then it came out on Netflix. I was like, okay, cool. I'll watch it on Netflix. Just never did. And I just kept forgetting. Mainly because other movies or shows kept taking priority. Sure. And it just kind of got pushed back. And I was wrong. I thought Mom also saw it in theaters and told me to watch it. She did not. I think she watched it on Netflix. But no, it was fantastic. Relative to this recording, I literally finished it. Here, let's see. About 45 minutes ago. No, that doesn't seem. About an hour ago.
Okay.
No, sorry, about an hour and a half ago. There we go.
Riveting.
Yeah, about an hour and a half ago. Yeah, it was fantastic. It's very David Fincher, but also, just like you said, it's not how you think a contract killer movie is going to go. It does feel very different than specifically some of the other David Fincher films we've talked about on the show, like Your Shirt, like Fight Club, and Zodiac. It feels very different, but also at the same time, very Fincher, and it's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, he always knows how to pick an actor for his lead so well.
Yeah,
like, I think every lead actor he's picked for all his films have been, even Jesse Eisenberg for The Social Network.
Phenomenal. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, that's no question.
Yeah. So Jeremy, would you like to give everyone a little synopsis?
Sure. The killer follows a killer for hire, played by Michael Fassbender, who goes by many aliases, and we'll go over those here in a little bit, because they are sort of they're jokey, right? So he is in the middle of a job in Paris, and we are going through his routine, his day-to-day of waiting, right? He finally gets his chance to execute his target. He misses, which is a first. He has never missed before. And so now he doesn't know what to do. So he calls his handler. They said they'll get it taken care of. He goes back to his hideout in the Dominican Republic. He realizes when his handler is going to take care of it, he means go after him. And they found his hideout, attacked his girlfriend, put her in the hospital. He now has to find who did it and kill them, right? And he goes person by person, step by step, very meticulously planned, very well executed, very well organized most of the time. The film follows him, like I said, step by step. We're going to find this person, to kill this person, to then find this person. And it's very linear, which is, I think, one of the reasons why I love the film so much. Is it's such a simple, well executed premise for this type of movie. Once he has executed everyone he needs to, he goes back to the Dominican Republic, and, well, let's hope he retires. And that's the killer. I mean, it's not anything too complicated at all. It's almost a comfort watch, I think, which sounds strange.
Well, I would agree, because to just kind of hop right into it, while I was watching it, I was like, I know this is a contract killer movie, like in the vein, for those of you listening, in the vein of, like, let's just say for what it is, John Wick. John Wick is technically a contract killer movie. But where John Wick is more, the action is the movie. You go see John Wick to see what new things John Wick is going to do, which, granted, you and I are big fans of those movies, and Keanu is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Keanu was the perfect choice. If they make a fifth one, great. Let that one be the end. Let that poor man retire.
Yeah, for sure.
But this one's different in the sense of the action is not the movie. The movie is just kind of like how you mentioned in the Logan episode, the tease of just his day to day, and how meticulous he is and how he operates. And not saying that John Wick isn't entertaining, but this does sort of make for a little bit more interesting and entertaining movie.
It's surprisingly entertaining because it's a film about process, right? It's his process. And it's also, you think you're looking at a completely emotionless, nihilistic individual who is amoral and who just, if you pay the right price, I'll fight your battle and it'll be it. It'll be done. And it's it. But as the movie progresses, those layers peel away and we do see some humanity and we do see some emotion. And especially when, I think the biggest one is when his girlfriend is in the hospital and when he's in the Dominican Republic. But I mean, the first inkling of emotion is when he misses. He's so not used to that. And of course, that's what kicks the whole movie off. But what I love about David Fincher, what I love about this film, and what the film is doing is it takes its time, and we are slowly introduced and slowly brought into this situation, and to meet our killer and to really know who he is, at least who he thinks he is in the very beginning, with like a 20-minute opening with him in that old WeWork building, which, by the way, fuck WeWork, good for them, right? Good for the movie to be like, you know what, let's take a failed idea and let's turn it into a positive for this guy's hangout, because it's perfect, because of course no one would use it because it's a WeWork space.
I do have a friend who, I don't know if she does work for WeWork, but she does work in a WeWork building.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Which I thought was fascinating, right? Bringing real world elements into the movie, I thought was great. But just a little bit,
Well, and dude, we're segueing so good right now, man. That's another thing I really liked is all the real world elements. Like he orders stuff off of Amazon. He's going to, he goes to Lowe's, right, or Home Depot.
Well, he pays.
He goes
He pays people to go in. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I really liked a lot of the real world elements, because I may be making a lot of comparisons to John Wick, but John Wick, there's like a whole network and a whole like shadow organization to do these things for. You need guns, you go to this person. You need cash, you go to this person. Right. Now again, not saying that's a bad thing. It just, for this movie, for the killer, that doesn't work. It's better that it is realistic and that he's using the same things that we use every day. Like when he mentions, I used to use Airbnbs, but the nanny cams made it impossible. So I don't do that anymore. Which that honestly kind of made me laugh a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean, this film is sort of darkly funny in places. But you're right. So what I love about this film is that it's almost the anti John Wick, because and I thought about this, I think during maybe the third one, or maybe even as recent as the fourth one, I was in the theater and I go, I'm really glad they don't show us how he got there, because how unrealistic would that be, right? If they show him getting on a plane, John Wick, to go to this other country, and they're like, we don't need any of that, because that would kill the illusion, right? It would kill the magic of John Wick in this crazy, unrealistic world of underground assassins and their network of people, right? However, this, I love that we see him get on airplanes. We see him rent cars. We see him take taxis. We see him order stuff on Amazon, like you were saying. We see his process. It's someone who is very proficient and expert at their job, doing their job. Which I will compare this to an unlikely source, probably. I'm going to compare it to The Martian, the Matt Damon film, the Ridley Scott movie. It is someone who is very good at their job, problem solving, and expertly executing their job. And it's something that I love to see, right? It's the reason I love pretty much anything by Aaron Sorkin, because it's smart people being smart and being good at what they do. And we get to watch people be proficient at something. I love seeing someone execute a process, going from step by step, and there are rare but very few missteps, right? So I mean, let's start with the opening. So besides our David Fincher opening credit sequence, which he always loves to have separate standalone credit sequences. We see this in a lot of his films. It prepares you for what you're about to see, and then that's it. Boom, we're done. No words on the screen while action's happening, which I appreciate. We see this in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Seven. We see it in. Do we see it in? I think we see it in Fight Club as well. There are
in Fight Club it transitions.
Oh, that's
true. Because it's the CGI of the gun.
Oh, that's right.
On Edward Norton Edward Norton's mouth, and then it,
right.
But no, you're right.
It is completely separate, right? So I like that he's still doing that. And then of course we're in this WeWork space across from the penthouse apartments or whatever that person's living in.
Yeah.
And it's mundane, it's tedious, it's meticulous. The narration is perfect. And then we get what will become a pattern with the movie, where he's mid-monologue in his head. He hears something at the door. He's interrupted, so his inner monologue stops. And what's fascinating is it's a little subtle touch, but any time that the killer has to break from routine, break from process, improvise, the camera goes from static to handheld. And so the camera now is sort of unsure what's going to happen, just like the killer is. So when someone opens the door to the WeWork space, he has no idea what's going to happen, because he's not ready for that. And of course, they're just dropping off the mail, but the camera again moves from static to handheld, which I love, which happens throughout the movie. Anytime he has to improvise, or anytime it breaks from his plan, or what he thinks is going to happen. If that's interrupted, then the camera moves.
Which is funny, because one of his tenets, I guess, is adaptation, not improvisation.
It's anticipate, don't improvise.
Oh, anticipate. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Which again, I think is funny. That he tends to have to improvise. Yeah.
Yeah. Constantly.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, I had to look up why he was waiting so much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why is he waiting? And then it's because, which I also, again, and I love that Fincher doesn't tell us this, but it adds so much more to, as you said, the mundaneness. He doesn't know when his hit's going to show up.
Right.
And all he knows is the hit's going to show up at some point, take him out. And that's all he knows.
Yeah.
And I love that he's getting restless, that he calls Hodges, and Hodges is like, okay, look, if nothing happens in the next, he says 48 hours, right? He's like, then you can leave. And I love that he's kind of pissed by that a little bit and like doesn't agree to it, just goes ahead and smashes his phone. But I just love that he's like, fuck, 2 more days. God damn it.
I know. It's the tedious parts of the job that I find more interesting and more realistic, even though, and I think we should probably get this out now, contract killers don't exist. So
go watch the movie Hitman. There you
go. You are more likely to get scammed on the dark web by hiring a hitman than you are to actually find one. Which is so fascinating. I mean, there's a lot to be said about why we love assassins and assassin movies, even though it's a job that doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's set in a realistic space. This is the most realistic, one of, I guess, the most realistic takes I've ever seen on what a hitman would look like. Should it be real? I think the most realistic would be You Were Never Really Here.
Oh my
God, yes. And the third would probably be Leon the Professional. But
dude, You Were Never Really Here. Oh.
I know.
God, that movie's so good.
That is by far, I think, the most realistic look at what something like that would look like if it were real.
Everyone, finish this episode and then go listen to our episode of You Were Never Really Here. God,
so and you know what's funny is I still wouldn't even compare this movie to that, because that is also very, very linear and tedious at times and meticulous at times. I would almost compare this as a like Bourne Identity with a lower resting heart rate. Because Jason Bourne is an expert at everything, and so one of my favorite scenes in the Bourne Identity is he's trying to get out of this building, and he immediately steals a walkie-talkie so he can listen to what people are saying, and he needs to know where they are, and so he grabs a map off the wall of the fire exits, and so now he knows where everybody is, and it's so smooth. He gets the walkie-talkie, he puts it in his ear, then he grabs it off immediately because he knows he's going to need it. It's that kind of precision and in execution that I love about this movie.
Yeah, I agree. You know, and again, going back to the mundaneness of it, you know, I love that he even says, you know, my camouflage is based off a German tourist I saw.
Yeah.
You know, that even he was like, huh, no one's really paying attention to that guy.
Yeah.
I should look like that guy.
He needs to know how he can blend in the best and not draw attention to himself. Which is, I love his clothing, right? Yeah. His cars aren't fancy. His clothes aren't fancy. Because that would draw attention to himself, right? Yeah. So it wouldn't make sense for him to drive an Aston Martin and to wear a suit. Yeah. Even though movies would lead you to believe that they wear suits. They don't.
Yeah.
Or because they don't exist. But okay. again, I think we're beating a dead horse here, or we're hitting
Okay.
it too much. But I do one last thing that I love that he does in the beginning of the film is he chooses not to get on an airplane because he thinks there might be a threat with that one gentleman who's going to be on his plane.
Yeah.
That he thinks maybe he knows who he is, so I'm not going to get on the plane. I'll get on the one tomorrow. And it's just, again, it's his thought process. It's him trying to get out of this thing and to go to his hideout, but again, trying not to get caught on his way to the airport after the botched shooting. I love that he is, and this is what I love about John Wick, is that he's, I guess, overly cautious, or he really does have these redundancies and these well executed methods of getting rid of what he needs to get rid of, because it's so smooth the way Fassbender just throws the thing in the garbage truck, and then he takes the gun apart and half of it goes in the sewer and the other half goes over here. The helmet goes in the lake or whatever.
Yeah.
He goes to the gas station, strips, scrubs himself raw, and then puts on new clothes. I mean, it's what I love about The Bourne Identity. It's what I love about even the Mark Wahlberg movie Shooter. He does a lot of this kind of stuff. I guess I just like when people have a plan and then they just do it. I don't know. I think I think I like that sort of confidence, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. We're beating a dead horse a little bit. Okay. So I do find it interesting that the catalyst for this movie is a botched hit, which, to his credit, he did have a good shot. It's just that dominatrix kind of got in the way a little bit.
He moved.
Yeah. But yeah, it is interesting that this is what what sparks it. Because usually I would say, and again, I'm going to just use John Wick, it's usually a successful hit that sparks everything, but I love, like, what you said at the beginning, that after he gets home and sees his girlfriend has been attacked and his home broken into, I love that we begin with the taxi driver that drove them to his house. And I love that in his narration he goes, "I blame you for everything, Leo."
Yeah.
Which, of course, I feel like a lot of people would be like, "Oh man, poor Leo," and it's like, nah. I think if it was any taxi driver, he was going to do the same thing. Just,
of course.
Leo just had to be the one.
Well, and I think that's compartmentalization.
Yeah.
He blames Leo, so he doesn't blame himself yet. Again, we're stripping away layers to get to the humanity during the film's runtime. Little by little, we're stripping it away and getting to the core of who the killer is. And that nihilism and that pessimism and the emotionlessness, that all goes away eventually, or at least way stripped down to where we have more of a fully formed person by the end of this thing. And again, the film is so well put together. In each step of his plan, we learn a little bit more about him, especially when he gets to Hodges. And one of the darkly funny moments that made me laugh was he miscalculated the nails in the lungs, which I thought was really funny. That he was like, all right, it's got 7 minutes. Shit. He's already dead.
Well, because I think it was that third one. That third one went in too deep. Because I did notice that Fincher did kind of zoom in a little bit closer when he did the third nail, which also kind of a baller move to kill a guy with a nail gun, but not in the way you think, not like a headshot or anything, like to stab him in the chest to fill his lungs up with blood.
Yeah.
To where he's drowning essentially. But yeah, I think it was the third one. I think he got the third one too deep. And so that 6 minutes became 2 minutes.
And also during that sequence, what I think it was Fincher. I watched a couple of behind the scenes stuff today. I think Fincher was the one who was saying that where most films like this, the excitement is in the kill or in the revenge. In this film, it's he got through the door, right? It's the FedEx guy goes in, he's counting how long it takes for that door to close, and then when he opens it again, you're like, all right, you got 8 seconds. What are you gonna do? And then he gets in, you're like, yes, he got in the door. And it's moments like that. Again, it's part of his process. It's part of the planning. That are these moments that are main events in the storytelling instead of the revenge itself. The revenge itself that's going to happen regardless, but how are we going to get there?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's the exciting moments in this movie, which don't sound very exciting until you see it, and then it's thrilling, I think.
Yeah, I agree. You know, because I had a suspicion. I was like, this movie, he's gonna get his revenge. And I actually had the thought, I was like, but I don't think it's gonna be like other revenge stories where our protagonist becomes so consumed by revenge that, you know, ultimately they get it, but they die at the end, you know, kind of thing.
Sure.
So I didn't think that was gonna happen, but so we've been talking about how Fincher starts to peel back the layers of this person. And I think the second time we see that is with Dolores.
Mm-hmm.
So he kills Hodges, his handler, because Hodges is just refusing to give any information on who hired the two people that he knows were in his house. But Dolores is willing, but all she asks is, don't make me disappear. My kids are going to need my life insurance. And he does break his sympathy or his empathy tenet, and he breaks Dolores's neck and then pushes her down the stairs to make it look like she broke her neck on the fall.
Right.
And, you know, and I find that really interesting because, you know, again, Fincher at this point has made the killer seem not heartless necessarily, but very cold and calculating. Like, there's no way he's gonna make sure your kids get your life insurance. Like, no, you were complicit in my girlfriend getting attacked.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, he does. He chooses the empathetic path. That way, something good could come out of, I guess, Dolores's complicity. That's not a word, but whatever. But yeah, but you know, I feel like that's our second look into like, okay, maybe he's actually a person.
Yeah. Completely agree. Yeah, that whole sequence is really tense.
Yeah, and she's got an old Rolodex that he's.
Well, and again, I like that they have this coded system that if you're just looking at it at face value, it means nothing. But until you know what you're looking for, then you can follow the patterns and then find out what you're looking for. I really liked that. Again, it's little realistic things like that. You know, there's not a room full of tattooed women in a chalkboard with phones everywhere. Even
Although that is really cool.
It's super badass. And listen, no complaints. I'm just saying I like this really grounded story.
Yeah.
And I think one of my favorite sequences is when he goes to Florida and tries to take care of the brute, what he calls him.
Also, speaking of the brute, I don't know if you looked this up. That dude was a I wouldn't say body double, but he was in a future episode that we're gonna do, a movie that we're gonna do later on.
Oh, really? Was he?
You want me to tell you?
Was he like a stuntman or something?
No, it was more. It was kind of like the bodybuilder for Darth Vader. They just needed a big guy in a suit.
Gotcha. Yeah, which movie are we doing? Which
You don't remember?
No.
That I'm not telling you that.
All right, fine.
But that's leave it a mystery.
That dude's gigantic.
Because the dude is huge. And hang on, I want to make sure I read it right. But yeah, I love the sequence with the brute because it shows that he, again, like what we were talking about, is he does have to improvise because the brute catches him off guard.
Right.
Because he thinks it's just going to be a quick little, oh, get in, kill him, we're donezo spagunzo.
Right.
But the brute's like, nah, homie. Like, I knew you were going to be here. Well, maybe he didn't know he was going to be there, but he knew someone was in his house. And it was I'm either going to kill you or you're going to kill me, but I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. And again, that whole sequence is shot handheld because he is having to improvise so much. And I think the funniest moment is he grabs, I think it was like a lemon zester or something out of the drawer, and he's so annoyed. He looks like he's like, shit. And then he just throws it to distract him. I loved it because he still used it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I feel like we get a little bit more humanity with this sequence too, because he doesn't kill the dog.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he could easily kill the dog, but instead he chooses to drug the dog and just let it be asleep.
Yeah.
I'll do what I need to do. No one will be none the wiser. And he still doesn't kill the dog after he finally kills the brute.
Yeah.
He chooses just to set the dude's house on fire and walk away.
Dude, when the brute falls on the table leg.
Oh my god, dude.
I had such a visceral reaction to that. I didn't think it was going to affect me that much. And I think this is my third time watching it. Even the third time I was like, oh my god, I forgot about that.
So at first I didn't know what was happening. And then when he slid down a little bit, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And then he pulls it out. Yeah.
Well, and again, to ground this movie even more is the killer gets super fucked up fighting this guy. Yeah. Like he's a fighter, but he's not the best.
No, he got some good punches in, but yeah, if the brute had any more one-ups on him, the killer wouldn't have made it. This is where the revenge would have ended.
Yeah, and again, I appreciate characters being realistically smart. As soon as that door closes, he has his gun. He's going to shoot through the door, of course. Why would he wait for the brute to come in there and open the door? So again, I like that we're breaking these cinematic tropes and these rhythms that these movies usually take, which is, you wait till the very last second, then you do it. Nah.
I got my gun. Yeah. And I like that he has again, like you were saying, the smarts to aim higher because he's taller than him. And dude, I thought for sure, I was like, man, that dog's gonna get him.
Yeah. Broke through the glass door also made me laugh. I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, but the dog going at full speed breaks through the door made me laugh. It was very cartoony to me.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of continuing on this peeling back the layers of humanity, I feel like we really get it when he's talking with Tilda Swinton, the expert. Um, I I think this has to be my favorite sequence of the movie.
Okay, the Tilda Swinton sequence, nice.
Just because I love that she kind of shakes him a little bit, with his whole especially with the whole like, you came here. Sure, if I scream, I'll still end up dead, and you could maybe get away, but you won't get away clean though.
Yeah.
Like you're risking it all to be in this restaurant. And I think it's because she recognizes kind of a little bit that not that his revenge is consuming him, but definitely that his revenge is driving him to take more risks and, be more improvisational rather than anticipatory.
Well, it's definitely more impulsive.
Yeah.
But again, it's more, I don't know if he wants an explanation necessarily, because, I mean, no explanation needed. He knows why they were there. He knows why they did what they did, and he understands. I mean, it's part of the job. I don't really, it kind of falls into the reason for the joke that she tells too, because it's not just about the hunt, because the hunt for him would be easy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not really what this is about. And I still find it hard to, I guess because we don't get a lot of interaction with them, it's sort of the suspension of disbelief for me is that the reason he's doing all of this is because they attacked his girlfriend. He has a girlfriend. He cares for this person. So that's also something you have to remember, is that he's not completely devoid of emotion, even though that's what we believe in the beginning. Even though the beginning shows us that he's absolutely not, that he loves this woman that we don't really know, and don't really get a lot of interaction with. But again, you have to keep reminding yourself that's why he's so upset in a way. But it's also because he was betrayed by Hodges. He was betrayed by these people because these people are colleagues, essentially.
Yeah. I want to put a pin just real quick because I'm glad you brought up his girlfriend real quick. Was saying how we don't get a lot of time with her, and I don't think we need it. I think
no, I mean that's fine.
I think all Fincher wants us to know is that he cares for her. Well, he definitely loves her.
Yeah.
He loves and he cares for her, and I think Fincher just wants us to understand that fact, and I think that's why we don't get a lot of time with her. Because definitely after I finished the movie, I was like, oh yeah, she was in the hospital at the beginning of the movie. But yeah, I think that was intentional. Like, look, here she is. Yeah. All you need to understand is that he loves her, he cares for her, and he's going to avenge her in a way.
Agreed. And a little bit of himself. He doesn't like that people are going after him also, essentially. And we're there for him in the first place. Like, they weren't really, she was just collateral damage. It's just because he hasn't gotten there yet. And in fact, he hadn't gotten there yet because he didn't get on the plane. If he had gotten on the plane, he would have been there.
Yeah. Do you think, I just want to offer a hypothetical, do you think, in context of this fictional world, had he gotten on the plane, do you think he could have stopped them right then and there?
Probably. I think he's good enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, and then he's got that John Wick arsenal buried out in the backyard. So
that was cool. That was, and dude, again, some of the voiceover is so funny because he talks about, like, the day that he stops paying for the storage units, people are gonna, buy the storage unit. People are gonna bid on that storage unit and find all of this stuff.
Well, and it's untraceable to him because yeah. Okay, so to close out with the expert, again, as we've been saying, it seems like with every kill in this revenge plot, it's peeling back more layers of his humanity. And like I said, I feel like Tilda Swinton the expert, shakes him to his core. But it also proves his one tenet right is trust no one.
Yeah.
Which is, when she falls and it's like, help a girl up. And he wastes no time and takes her out. Because I'm assuming he probably knew she's going to try something. So I just might as well.
Yeah, of course.
I do wonder though. I'm obviously with the film, he just leaves her there, but do you think he maybe cleaned up and did something with her body, or do you think he just left her there?
No, because we would have saw that. I don't think there was any cleanup to do necessarily, because anytime he gets rid of evidence or he has to clean up after himself, we see that. Why not show us? I mean, we've been seeing it, throughout the movie the whole time. The little spray bottle of what I assume is bleach, to kill all like the blood evidence and like the hair fibers and the whatever. I love that. And he even puts it on the gun when he throws it away at the airport. Love it. Now after the expert it might be my favorite sequence because it's like a little movie within a movie. Like it could be its own thing, is him tracking down the client.
Yeah, the guy that hired him in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't specifically hire Michael Fassbender. He contacted Hodges,
right,
who gave him the case.
Right.
I want to, dude, this definitely is my second favorite sequence of him tracking down Claiborne and just watching his movements and again, I love he uses Amazon.
Yeah.
Although I did worry. I'm like, I wonder how many people got on Amazon after this movie came out and was like, fob copier.
Can I get that? Does that exist?
I feel like probably not.
No, I think the opposite. I think probably.
Ouch.
And again, watching that sequence, I was like, man, it is easy. If you're focused enough and you know exactly what you're doing, like maybe it is this easy. I like that, he mentions that his driver, he's, I think he calls him, he's not Mossad, which means he's not like a special agent. He's not like a trained fighter. He's just some guy,
playing Wordle.
Yeah. Mentioning that, security is so tight until, he wants, Uber Eats or whatever it was.
Postmates.
Yeah, Postmates. Yeah. I mean, of course, right? Because everyone always lets in that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, so I love that he allows Claiborne to talk. And he pretty much stays silent most of the time. Because he just wants an answer at this point. It's like, you hired me and then you hire these other people to kill me. Like, what the fuck? And I really love, again, that we've been talking about it, of sort of his grounded answer. It's not a grandiose answer of like, oh, this is just what I do. I want people taken out. So, it's nothing over the top. It's, I was told that it went sideways and asked if I wanted insurance. And for an extra $150K, I could have that insurance. And he was like, it didn't seem like a bad deal to me. And because it wasn't personal. In his eyes, it wasn't personal.
Right.
He thought, I'm assuming he probably thought they would make sure that there would be no ties back to him.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, technically, killing the contract killer you hired by hiring other contract killers.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is going to be no ties to you, but yeah, you know, and I also, again, I love the grounded answer of, I'm new to this. I've never done this before.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this is where we get the most peeled back of the killer's humanity. Because he could easily just kill this guy. But
right.
as, of course, he's already mentioned, rich people are harder to kill because there's more investigations. Like, he can't just disappear.
Right.
But he chooses to spare Claiborne. Although he definitely scares the shit out of him.
Definitely.
And pretty much says, if you ever come after me, I will make sure you die. Slowly. But again, I think this is my second favorite sequence of the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
Of him just, and again, just, and this is something else I don't think we've mentioned it yet, is all the talking. You know, obviously with the brute, this is their form of talking, of just fighting. But all just the back and forth between, you know, the person he's about to kill and himself. You know, that he tends to stay silent and let them talk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, love it.
What I love about Fassbender's performance is I think, apart from a few, maybe just one or two instances, he doesn't blink on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is sort of unnerving, and it makes him more more menacing and a little more intimidating because he's not blinking. And I don't know, it goes with the silence too, because he's not talking and he's also staring at you, and so it makes people uncomfortable and want to talk more, and that's his intimidation, and that's his tactic to get people to give him information he needs.
Yeah,
which I really like. It's a similar thing with Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. He doesn't blink very much either. And there's something about, it's something like, even if you don't notice it, you notice it, because it's a little unnatural not to blink.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, so buddy, you said you really wanted to talk about his aliases real quick.
Yes.
At the top of the show.
Okay. Did you notice any of them?
A few.
Were they familiar to you?
Kind of. The only one that really kind of caught my eye was the final one when he closed out one of his accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Then was the name George Jefferson?
It was.
Okay.
Okay.
That one I was like, I know that name.
So all of the aliases are from sitcoms. Are you ready?
Oh no.
Okay. Felix Unger is from The Odd Couple.
Okay.
Archie Bunker is All in the Family.
Oh my god.
Oscar Madison is the other person in The Odd Couple. Howard Cunningham is from Happy Days. Reuben Kincaid is the Partridge Family. Lou Grant is Lou Grant. Sam Malone, Cheers. George Jefferson, The Jeffersons, and Robert Hartley is the Bob Newhart Show.
Well, but this adds like another layer to this movie, which is that no one else recognized these names.
Well, and you know, they're all together, it's suspicious, but separately they mean nothing, right? I think the only ones that are a little suspicious would be Unger, Bunker, and maybe Sam Malone. The other ones are sort of like, whatever, that's a name, you know?
Right.
But I did like that they were all sitcom characters. I think the first one I did notice Felix Unger and Archie Bunker, and then after that I was like, was that another one? Like, I couldn't tell or whatever. And I like these little they play it off as customer service, them repeating the name back to him. But
Uh-huh.
I like that we're getting all of these aliases that he's using, and they all just happen to be TV characters.
That's funny. And like I said, well, I'm a little disappointed I didn't catch the Sam Malone one.
That's okay.
Well, it's not okay because I'm a Frasier fan. And of course, now I have never seen an episode of Cheers, but Sam Malone, Ted Danson, shows up later on in Frasier playing Sam Malone. So I should have caught that. But
one thing I want to touch on before we close out is something that I think David Fincher will be known for long after he's gone, which is his brilliant use of CGI.
Yes.
David Fincher's CGI is incredible because it's not gratuitous. It's not it's not noticeable most of the time because he's not creating an entire space most of the time. He is improving, adding, or subtracting from spaces. I guarantee you when he goes to like the airport, half of it's not really there. I when he gets in his Jeep for the first time and you see the road signs, I guarantee you that's not really there. It will shock you, however, maybe it shocked me that anytime we're shooting inside a car, we are shooting close up on him on the moped. Anything with him in close proximity in a vehicle or on a vehicle, he is on a soundstage in front of a screen.
Really?
I promise. It is crazy. Okay.
Well, and I feel like we maybe talked about it either in Fight Club or in Zodiac.
We definitely talked about it in Zodiac because his CGI in Zodiac is incredible.
Well, and it's because Fincher's like he was one of the earlier adopters of CGI, right?
Well, digital.
Or at
digital
least
filmmaking, he is he'll never shoot on film again. Zodiac, I think, was his first time using digital, and he loves it so much because it's so easy. And why make things harder? You
know? But yeah, no, I would agree, man. I mean, because, like, especially like with how I mentioned earlier with Fight Club, the opening credits is a CGI pullout through Edward Norton to see the gun in his mouth.
Yeah.
The Tyler Durden has the gun in his mouth, but it's seamless. I mean, like, with how old that movie is, you can tell a little bit.
Sure.
The CGI is a little dated, but still the transition's perfect.
I would recommend going on YouTube and seeing some before and afters for David Fincher films. Because there are moments in like Gone Girl and in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and Zodiac where you're like, wait, that was a soundstage or that was puzzle pieced together. A great example for this movie, not only for the shots on him in the car on the scooter or whatever, which those are completely CGI, which is crazy to me. It's so good. But let's take the opening. So across the street from the WeWork space. First off, the WeWork space and the across the street, completely separate locations. They were on a soundstage for the WeWork location. And across the street, that doesn't exist. That building's not really there. That vantage point's not really there. So they had to create one. So what they did was they built a soundstage for the apartment and superimposed it on the building. Okay.
Okay.
So there was no siding on the soundstage, so that was CGI. There was no windows, no glass. That was all CG. They showed the picture of the cameras in the window looking at the street and there were like 9 cameras going all at the same time, focusing on different things. And what they used for the scope POVs The digital people even added little specks of dust and like a hair on the lens of the scope. I mean, it's the amount of detail that's in this movie is incredible, you know? And that's what you get with Fincher.
Yeah.
Fincher is so detail oriented.
Yeah. That's insane, dude. No, I mean, like, I think I've got actually convinced to watch this movie, so definitely I think I'm gonna have to rewatch it now and just look to see.
Ben Affleck has a story about working with Fincher on Gone Girl where they had to break for something, and so they took like, I don't know, however many minutes to move a light or something. Ben Affleck um, was like talking to a producer, talking to someone. He goes, "Check this out," and he tweaked the lens maybe like half a centimeter, like it was nothing, right? He tweaked the lens a little bit, and he said, "Watch this." And when they go back to shooting, Fincher looks through the lens and he goes, "Something's wrong. Hold on." And then he tweaked it back. He goes, "Okay, that was wrong. Okay, we can start now." He notices. It's insane the amount of detail he goes in on Zodiac. I'm sure we talked about it. In the San Francisco Chronicle set, you could pick up any newspaper from the stack and read it in its entirety from the day that they are shooting. So on this day, it was April 2nd, 1968. These are those San Francisco Chronicle newspapers in its entirety.
That's insane. You know, man, to close out before we get to the wrap up, Fincher and even Robert Eggers, man, their attention to detail it's on another level.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, that's what you need to do. That's what it takes. Sorry. To make a movie like this, to show a character that is so meticulous and so well organized and so detail oriented, the movie needs to be made that way.
Mm-hmm. I agree, man. I agree. So, are you ready to wrap up?
Yeah.
I love this, dude. Like I said, I think I've got Ashley sold on seeing it. And so hopefully we'll get to rewatch it soon.
It's definitely one that I go to, even if it's just like I'll watch a few minutes of it, just because it's fun. It's fun to watch. It's almost relaxing in a way, which is probably not its intended purpose.
Yeah,
but I love it. So I'm glad you liked it, and yeah, I'd be interested to take a peek at the graphic novel that it's based on. It's a French graphic novel. But when I looked it up, it's insanely expensive, and so I'm like,
yeah. Well, because it was, I think the first issue was like published in the '90s, so I'm sure all you could find now is like a collected edition that has all the comics, kind of like the Watchmen graphic novel.
oh, probably. So and it needs to be like translated and stuff like that. So I guess it's expensive. So
yeah.
Okay.
Somebody, are you ready to learn what we're going to talk about next week?
Yes, I'm very excited.
I don't know. So I've been racking my brain all day. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
You want me to choose?
So I am. Well, yeah. I'm going to give you an option.
All right.
One or two. Only two options.
Only two choices.
One or two.
I'll go with. Sorry, I realized that's dead air for people just listening. I'm like, Jesus. They're like, did something go wrong with my headphones? Two.
Can I be honest? I knew you were going to pick two.
Really? Cool.
Yeah, I was like, he's going to pick two. And that's why number two. Next week. It's going to be a good one. Real good. Next week, everyone, is going to start a 3-part episode.
Cool.
Long time coming. Ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing, finally, The Lord of the Rings, starting with The Fellowship of the Ring.
Cool.
And we are doing the extended editions because that's the only way to watch these movies.
Agreed. I cool. Haley's gonna lose her mind. She's gonna just leave. I don't know. Probably not forever, but she's
she's gonna be gone for 3 weeks. The whole 3 weeks that we do Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, she's gonna. Yeah, and we are doing these in a row. So like this is it. So it's going to be 3 weeks in a row. We are doing Fellowship. I always get close. The Two Towers. I know. And Return of the King. We're doing them all in a row. So yeah. Which possibly means I get 3 in a row.
I mean, if you want to. I mean, it's only fair. It's because, you know, but also you could say these count as one, but also, but that's a future Rain and Jeremy problem to discuss in 3 weeks. So, yeah. Can I tell you what number 1 was?
Yes,
it's what we were talking about while we were in Austin. Number 1 would have been Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah. Cool.
We'll get to it, everyone. We will finish out the Blade Runner story.
Eventually.
The only surprise for Jeremy this season was Logan.
Yeah.
So we will do Blade Runner 2049. But no, I think now is the time during season 10 to do Lord of the Rings. I gotta say, man, hopefully I didn't just screw us over and pick something impossibly hard to talk about.
I mean, if only. Okay, so I don't know if it'll be impossible per se. It'll be dense. It'll be hard. I don't know if. I mean, we definitely won't touch on everything. We definitely won't.
No.
We're not. I am not scholastically inclined when it comes to literature. I don't. I'm not. That's not my expertise, if I even have an expertise. I'm kind of thinking about either calling my mom or my uncle for help with this one.
I'll tell you what. As a final tease before we close out the episode, while you're writing the description for this episode, it's a little inside baseball. As soon as the episodes are over, Jeremy writes the description.
I do.
While you're writing the description, I'm going to send you 3 videos.
Okay.
Which hopefully future Rain and 3-week future Rain will credit each video when we do these episodes from a YouTube channel called The Deep Dive, where they go into excruciating detail each 3 movies. And they're great. It's a spin-off channel from the same channel I really like called New Rockstars. But the Deep Dive is more for kind of everything instead of just primarily comic book stuff. So
I'm also very excited. I hope Haley will at least be next to me during the Two Towers so I can nudge her when Aragorn kicks the helmet. So I can be like, "Did you know?
Did you know?" And did you know? Supposedly, that's a rumor.
Oh, okay.
I read somewhere that he didn't actually break his toe.
Damn it! I'm still gonna say,
but who knows?
It's tradition.
Yeah. But all right, everyone. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode on The Killer, and we can't wait for y'all to join us on this next 3-week journey of the next 3 episodes, which again will begin with The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, and we'll see you guys next week.